Welcome to today's edition of Poetricity Live. It's a pleasure to see some old faces and some regular faces as well. Um, Today, actually, we're starting a new series, which I'm excited to bring to you. So basically, the work I do has many pillars. Uh, and some of the pillars we've covered, one of them is covered by my book Dream, which is more about connecting to your purpose. We've done the space framework, which is about being clear about your true identity. That's when we talked about you are not your mind, you are not your body, and those kind of things. We've also talked about leadership. We talked about lead, which is again the collaborative element of the model. So this one here is the create framework, and this is about where the action happens. This is about the doing. This is about, but doing from a place of flow, doing from a place of ease rather than force, doing from a place of attracting rather than trying to chase. That is the very much the energy. So how do we create outcomes from a place that flows from us and acknowledges that we have been invited to, almost in a dance with the universe, really, to make something manifest in the earth. So this won't be the kind of rah-rah doing. This is a kind of aligned outworking, if we like. And it's going to be using kind of the things the universe has placed at our behest to actually make a difference. So the create framework talks about us being the conduit of creation, realizing our limitless potential, experimenting often, the idea there being really that a lot of things we try and do, you want to work it all out before you start. How do you start where you are and improve and just continue that way? Accessing your creative flow and transcending your fears. What are the things that stop us from actually putting things out there in the world? How do you overcome those? And expressing your full self. So again, just playing all out and allowing all parts of yourself to be part of that, all parts of your experience to be part of that. So as always, all these are underpinned by poetry because that's kind of my language of how to capture those things. And also what I love about poetry is when we put it on the table, very often the beauty of these sessions is what comes out from yourselves that are present. So as with all things, identity is always a good place to start. So I'm going to start with this piece here and we'll go from there. I'm going to read it. This is called Identity Crisis. Stories so often told, they got so old, about how you lost your ways to be creative, as was so long ago. Before you were told, not so good at this, might as well quit. What's the point in this if you can't be exquisite? You never left, never to be bereft of what still is, the creative essence bubbling inside. Nowhere else to go. Don't believe. Your essence will never die. Creation of the universe. Creative you were born. Creative till you die. Remember this. Surrender to it. Expressions of creation will come of it. The endless flow of creative consciousness to bless the earth with the beauty from within. As always, I'll read it again. Just identity crisis. Stories so often told, they got so old. About how you lost your ways to be creative as was so long ago. Before you were told, not so good at this, might as well quit. What's the point in this if you can't be exquisite? You never left, never to be bereft of what still is, the creative essence bubbling inside. Nowhere else to go. Don't believe the lie. Your essence will never die. Creation of the universe. Creative you were born, creative till you die. Remember this. Surrender to it. Expressions of creation will come of it. The endless flow of creative consciousness to bless the earth with the beauty from within. What are you hearing? What's coming up?
Hey, I ask you a question, Frank.
Yeah, sure.
At what age did you sort of did you embrace creativity? I mean, when did it become you, or how did you sort of find your passion?
Well, I've always been creative, but in a weird kind of way, my creativity was expressed more in the area of science, funny enough.
Oh,
Mathematics, to be interesting enough. I used to
yeah.
love additional mathematics because it used to be about problem solving rather than just numbers. So it used to be the cross path between here is a problem in the real world. How do you use scientific knowledge or mathematical formula to solve it rather than just here's a mathematical formula, stick the numbers in. And then as far as the poetic side of things came, that was much later in life. It must have been in my late 20s, maybe early 30s, before I started doing any form of poetry. I always loved writing because I used to do kind of in the church background that I come from. I ended up being responsible for creating Bible studies and things like that. So reading information, breaking it down, presenting it, something I'd practice in that realm. And then kind of like I say, probably late 20s, early 30s, I started then doing that and poetry as well.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I know in Japan they're very they actually think that mathematics and music, for example, go together hand in
Mm.
hand. So that makes perfect sense in a way that you
Yeah.
kind of transcend it to that direction.
Yeah, indeed. So,
What I'm hearing
yeah.
is the narratives that we often have in our own minds
Mm-hmm.
that kind of limit us from expressing our greatness or our genius within.
Mm.
And the stories, sometimes they don't come from the outside. There are some that we pick and they actually align with how we are thinking or how we are seeing ourselves. Then completely limits us. But also having that perspective that power to create is always within us. It never leaves. It
Mm.
never changes. It never goes anywhere else where we are not.
Mm.
It's just a matter of acceptance and understanding that no matter how I feel or think about myself, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not, I'm not learned enough, I'm not this enough.
Mm.
But just understanding that starting from just where you are, you can still create anything that is desired for you to fulfill your assignment on this planet.
Mm. Yeah, I like that.
Kind for me to see, those days when I feel like I can't do this, then I just know that the creative power never leaves. It's always there, always will be.
Mm. I love that. There's so much to be said about what you're sharing there. So much to be said. Yeah, I love the beauty of that. It's you can always come to it no matter what the narratives. And I love that idea of the narratives, sometimes the ones we resonate with that we then adopt, we internalize. Because anybody can say what they like, but if we don't internalize it, then it doesn't necessarily impact us in that way.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think maybe in the if I don't know if you read my story from the book, but you
I haven't
might
got around to it yet, but I will do. Yeah.
don't worry. Yeah, but what I realized is that when I have the hardest times, like especially like if I lose somebody who's
Mm.
very dear to me, um, somehow those gates of creativity are almost like exhausted. It's a path, you know, and that was very comforting to hear what Martina said, that it doesn't leave you, but it's like an invisible blanket, and I can't reach it, and it's so frustrating, you know, because but I know it comes back. So I keep on doing whatever small gestures, taking photos, snapshots, and just writing those narratives that come into my mind, because very often they're like spirit conversations. You know, I feel somebody and I talk to somebody, and then I just write a few sentences down. That's all. Because I feel that in this poem, you really, it's big, right? Creative part is so much that I feel that sometimes in my life I cannot get that much drive, no matter how hard I wanted to, because I just didn't have the energy.
I like that. So that gives us another excuse me, frame into it, that sometimes it's just the energy that seems to disconnect you from the flow of it, but it doesn't mean that inherently it's not there. And I love that idea of just being faithful to the process, even though the feeling may not be there, or it may not feel with that kind of ease that you're used to.
Yeah.
Just being faithful to continue to be a conduit. Thanks for that. I'll just re-put it into the chat for the benefit of those who join, like, because I know sometimes the chat history gets lost if you're not there. Anybody else on this piece? Okay. So there's something I wanted to kind of focus on, because it's part of kind of the narrative as well, that in our educational system, sometimes creativity, you see, when you try and make creativity competitive, I always find that an interesting paradigm, because part of the element of creativity is honoring the uniqueness in everybody, and allowing different expressions of the same. So when you try and say, well, this uniqueness is better than this uniqueness, it's an interesting concept to me. And I think sometimes people get turned off from creativity when it's framed competitively, because then they disqualify themselves because they're not being considered of quote unquote someone's level, or as good as. And really, I wonder if creativity should be framed like that, because I just think the essence of creativity is you get to reflect something that's unique, and anybody else who resonates with that gets to celebrate that. So trying to frame that as something that is competitive, I think then brings it into a realm that then some people begin to disqualify themselves, because now they get confused with, oh, I'm not as good as, so why bother? But actually there's people waiting to resonate with that expression that wouldn't resonate with the one that's considered to be better. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say?
It does.
Yeah. We've got a hand up. Andy, yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm a late comer, sorry about that. Not because I'm old, I'm not basing it on old, because the topic I picked there, stories, so told they got so old. I couldn't have time to go through all those things because I came very, very late. Forgive me about that. What I want to say is, whatsoever is planted in you that you are confident of, you do it your way. Not to compare yourself with others. You are unique in your own way. Whether there's some younger one that will be comparing themselves. In my own case, whatever is talking me that I know I can do in the way I will do it. That I don't want to hear what anybody will say. So far, I'm happy. I'm sure of what I'm doing. I'm competent of what I'm doing. I will do it till the grave said it's tomorrow. Praise the Lord. That is that is me. Nothing really boxed me. No matter how difficult it is, it depends on your perspective to everything that happens to you in life. Little thing can happen, somebody else will take it as large as anything that they won't be able to control it. But something heavy can happen to, like the lady was saying, somebody, you lose somebody. It depends on all the way the perspective you take it. You know that when somebody dies. If you are Christian, you say we meet in heaven. But when you carry it all along, it will just depress you. And my neighbor once was saying that when you lose somebody and people are crying and they can't get over it, it's not the person that has lost, it's what the person is doing in your life that you will miss so much that you won't be able to cope. How am I going to cope? So that is doing this for me is gone. Who is going to do it again? He said that is what makes people cry and cry. I don't look back. Praise. So I will pick some things when you are talking.
Right. Okay. So thank you very much for sharing that. So what I'm hearing is that there's the idea that going back to this idea of being competitive or looking at situations where you begin to disqualify yourself, let's say age is one of those perspectives, right? And there is something about that, in that the longer we live, the more experiences we collect. And that gives us certain perspectives that actually maybe people who have not had that don't possess. So that's something to celebrate rather than something to exclude yourself on the basis of. But I just go back to this idea of if everybody's expression is valid, is the point I'm trying to make. And we shouldn't use our perspective to invalidate someone else's or vice versa. But also being aware that whatever is our expression that we've been given, if we are true to it, is another thing I think you're saying there, is that idea of being true to what is for you. There is people out there who would resonate with it. And it's to those that's been sent. But what you also get out of it as well as a person. So it's not just in service of someone else, but actually being able to, because one of the lines in there, actually, if we go back to, let me just go back to it. So there's this idea of the creative essence bubbling inside. Sometimes when people don't have a place for that creative essence to express itself, it then begins to pop up in ways that are not necessarily helpful and creates almost some sort of creative frustration in people. So actually having some ways of expressing yourself creatively, even if you don't share with anybody else, actually is good for your mental well-being.
I think you're quite right there when you say when the creativity or the essence is bubbling out. I think that's where a lot of I see a lot of frustrations and a lot of health issues and a lot of stressful situations coming out, because now something wants to be born, but it is being suppressed. And maybe it might not be the environment. It might be just because we have that perspective that, or that narrative that I'm not good enough, I can't do this. And that's suppressing that. And then it ends up working against us instead, as for us, as for helping other people. So I think, now let's make sure of thought. Yeah. So I think a lot of the suppression that we bring within ourselves, or as you rightly say about the school education ways of competitiveness, it can cause some people or some of us to suppress our essence that is bubbling up to express its own uniqueness. But because it's not good enough, or it's not been accepted in the community or in the school, wherever it is, then I suppress that, and it then ends up working against me.
No, I hear that. I really do hear that. Okay, I've put something else in there because I think one of the things when we're talking of creativity and the ability to create, and like I framed in the first piece there, we were created, and the essence of who we are is creative. And creativity really says it's not just art or something pretty or something that people would consider art. Creativity is any way in which you come about life, in which you find new ways of doing something, you find new ways of expressing something, or you find a way to achieve an outcome that seemed not to be possible originally before you came to it. So the ability to make something appear or make something work or make something that's there already do something in a different way. So creativity has a very broad context here. And one of the struggles I found with specific art creativity, which I'm narrowing down to at this point, is this notion that this piece is put in here. And I'd be interested to see what people think about it. This one is called Source of Nothing. I, the source of nothing, the conduit of everything. Please feel no pity for me. Mine the joy of discovery. No limit can be placed on me, my only calling to be open, for all the universe wants to reveal. An endless vat of wisdom to share. No strain nor stress to bear. Just wonderful abandon. I at the behest of a divine call. A voice to the deepest truths. I too share in the wonderful surprise, having no control of when it will come, nor when it will go away. I just amazed like every passerby the beauty held in the divine treasure trove. There is no beginning, there is no end, just an endless stream of great goodness to share with everyone. I'll read that again. Source of nothing. I, the source of nothing, the conduit of everything. Please feel no pity for me. Mine the joy of discovery. No limit can be placed on me. My only calling to be open, for all the universe wants to reveal. An endless vat of wisdom to share. No strain nor stress to bear. Just wonderful abandon. I, at the behest of a divine call, a voice to the deepest truths. I too share in the wonderful surprise, having no control of when it will come, nor when it will go away. I just amaze like every passers-by, the beauty held in the divine treasure trove. There is no beginning, there is no end, just an endless stream of great goodness to share with everyone.
I really love that you're addressing the limitless. That really is important because I feel that we tend to do that ourselves. You know, we limit ourselves and our internal dialogues and what expectations might be facing us, and the fear of being judged, and there are a lot of things that can stop us from being creative. And in the end, like you're talking about the conduit, and I very often refer to it as being an instrument, like so that the universe can play out what needs to be played out. And that's an important part of creativity, is that we need to do it for ourselves, but it's also a vehicle to help others. And as you very well say here, it's the deepest truths often come when you're in creative contemplation, because that's when you're listening, what's happening. You're kind of tuning out from the day-to-day and listening to what's really going on here. What is the ultimate truth behind? So I don't know, I just love how you expressed it here, how I think about it as well.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
What I'm hearing is I, the source of nothing. I think the acceptance that limits me would be thinking that I am the source of whatever it is that is trying to flow through me. But recognizing that I am not this, I am the source of nothing. That means I'm just being in alignment and being used as a conduit that flows, that which I might know or I might not know, and allow it to flow through me so that it can be experienced out there, which then removes the limitness that I might place on that, because it's not about me, but I'm just this vessel that is allowing this truth or this essence of whatever it is that wants to be heard, to be felt, to be understood, to be known into the existence of our reality now, to just flow through. I think that's a very beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful how you put that, Martin. It's beautiful. That is the framing of the piece, really. Claudette, did you have something on that?
Hello.
You're on mute, Claudette.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Claudette.
Oh.
Well, there's two words that was coming up for me when I was listening to that poem: freedom. And not in control or trying to control. And I just think sometimes just being free and allowing yourself, trusting yourself, and just allowing yourself to be free, not trying to control anything or put boundaries around anything. That's sometimes that's when things begin to flow for you, when you stop trying to put things in a basket, label it, control it, but just allow it to flow. It's almost like a bird flying in the open sky, where it can just go to any corner, stop and start.
I love that. I love that. Freedom. Yeah. Control. And it's interesting thing about control is that we as human beings, we live under many illusions of control. And this is one of them. And really we're trying to control what we never have controlled. And the mind creates the illusion that we are controlling something. But obviously to maintain that illusion is a lot of energy. And that's why when you get freedom from that, it frees up that energy to actually, in this context, be creative. Yeah, Auntie, you're going to say something?
Oh, well, unfortunately, where the message is, I have to be going up and down. I wanted to use a bigger something. I have no chance to do that. That's so right. What I come out with is, I love the way no limit can be placed on me. That's the key word. Well, I'm nothing, don't pity me at this and that. You want to defeat yourself in that way. So that's it. Then number two is, out of nothing, create a great thing. Out of nothing. People can limit you. You are nothing. Oh, you are old. Oh, you can't do it. Oh, you are not educated enough. It depends on how you take it, how you feel yourself, what you are yourself. I have an example for that. Nobody can control me. I'm free for that. Now, I will give you the example, the little story about my church. I was a choir from young. So now I'm old. They don't want me to join them. Not this particular church, but it's in me that I love to sing. Now, when they said, oh, grandma, when they're even calling me great grandma, now what do I do? But one thing came up on me. When I was young, I used to have harmonica. I play harmonica. They call it mouth organ in the olden days. So I bought one expensive one from Amazon. When it's Christmas time, I will list my lyrics, my songs that I want to, Christmas song that I want to sing. Do you know they create time for me? They will say it is grandma's turn now to give us the hymns every year. Even when I travel to any church, I hold it. That she can blow it. Then I will do it. Then I put it on the Facebook. Am I old? Can anybody limit me? Did I get something out of nothing?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Mm.
I hear you. And what I'm hearing coming through there is that, so there's two elements of it. One is this idea that if you don't internalize the limit and you live through to the expression of what's in you, the space opens up for you to be able to express that. I'm certainly hearing that. But I'm also hearing this idea of there's a trade-off between if you feel that you need to be the source of something because it maintains the illusion of control, what limit does that then put on you, right? So what limit does that put on you? And that's another element of that. And the reason actually this piece is framed the way it's framed is to say, if you're willing for the ego to let go of this idea that you need to be the source and the one in control, there's a freedom, going back to what Claudette was saying, that there's a limitless end of things that could come through you. There's no limit, because in the world of possibility, there are infinite possibilities exist. And it's only what the moment dictates and the way things are seen in that moment would create a particular combination. But you could go away and look at the same thing again, and then you see something new, you see something different. So there literally is, when it comes to creativity, no limit to what can be created. And the idea, going back to what Martina was talking about, is that when you are in service of that creativity that wants to come through you, then that comes out in service of other people. But certainly you too get something out of it, I find, in my experience. Hi, Anne-Marie.
Hello, Frank.
Hi, nice to see you.
Just thought I'd just come in, even though I'm late.
That's all right. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Anyone else on this one?
I just wanted to say, you know what, this piece reminds me of St. Augustine's prayer. Make me channel of your peace. When there is darkness, let me bring your light. You know, that is kind of like, I am the channel, I am the conduit. So it's yours, it's not mine. Let it flow through me.
I like that. I like that. And that speaks very nicely to the next piece, actually. Because again, what I'm trying to do here is set the framework in which all the creation and the creative from ease and flow comes from. And that idea, this one is another one. This one is called Always More. Swept this way before, yet on the morn there was more. The tree shedding an abundance of gifts, freely it received from dirt in which it lives, the air, the rain, and the sun above. Having no fear for when this season ends, it hoards not what it has, but bears them all. For in its season of rest, it took it so well, so it has so much to give when the season repeats. I'll read that again. Always more. Swept this way before, yet on the morn there was more. The tree shedding an abundance of gifts, freely it received from dirt in which it lives, the air, the rain, and the sun above. Having no fear for when this season ends, it hoards not what it has, but bears them all. For in its season of rest, it took it so well, so it has so much to give when the season repeats.
I'll go first.
Yeah, go on.
From this one, I'm hearing problems that we have as humanity, the problems of hoarding, because we are so always afraid that we will not have enough tomorrow. So collect so much that we don't even have space to keep some of it. But yet, the seasons are telling us there is always something that will come to us. Maybe we need to learn more from the seasons than we do from our education.
I like that. There's a lot to be said there. Yeah, Claudette?
Yeah, when I was listening to that one, I just reminded me of sometimes we have this fear of lack.
Mm-hmm.
And when we've got a fear, when we're in the mode of we fear lack, we're always running after something out there, striving to go and get what we think we don't have, instead of trusting that what we need will come to us.
I like that. There's certainly a framing of abundance. If you believe in abundance, how would you live? How would you approach things? And what can we learn, as Martina was saying, from nature in the way that it operates about the idea of abundance and also this idea of the variance of seasons? Anybody else?
Well, one of the thoughts that, this is kind of very close to my heart, because in Finland we have very strong seasonal differences. So when it's light 24/7, during the summertime. And during the winter time, you hardly see the light at all. And like now, it's been -20, there's a lot of snow. So I think the business world has yet to discover that persons actually do live that cycle. So our bodies actually do kind of have to adjust like the tree, the different times of the year, because if you do, you always have more. But if you kind of try to struggle and fight it, then you realize that at springtime you're just exhausted because you've sort of tried to push yourself to the limit, through the dark and cold season, and you might have been sick because you were, just trying too hard and too much. And creativity understands that, because creativity is different. Like, anyways, it goes in waves. So it kind of, there are seasons when you produce more, and then there are times when you produce less. But it doesn't mean that that the flow doesn't have to end, it doesn't have to end anywhere.
Yeah, I like that. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean that something, yeah. You
very often think it's weakness, but it's not. It's human life,
Yeah. And that's where there's the call to be faithful to the call of creativity. When it's calling you, give it full expression, because you will go through seasons when, I've had situations where I sat down overnight and might have written 20 pieces, 30 pieces a night. You're not going to get that often. Yeah. But when it happens, be true and present to it, to give it that expression, because you recognize it wants the flow in that moment to do that. And when that season passes, then it will be. And then I might not write something for a month or 2 or 3 months. So, but again, it's going back to the previous framing of when you recognize that you're the source, you're not the source and you're the conduit, then you kind of link the two together, that you become open for the source and you allow it to express according to the season that it's determining. I think it's a beautiful thing. But then there are people who also subscribe to the notion that you just sit down and make yourself do stuff. Yeah, and I'm not going to make a judgment as to if that works for them. I think that's brilliant. It's never been my thing. But nonetheless, there's an absolute abundance of things that just come out because they want to come out. And it's the trust as well that it's here, give it space and let it come out. Anybody else?
One word stood out for me, and that's balance. And when I think about balance, I'm thinking about this thin line that separates between scarcity and abundance. And the fact that all of us have within us that key to allow us to be able to pivot from one paradigm to the next. But what is it that we choose to unlock? you know, by focusing on scarcity, we will see scarcity all around us. By focusing on abundance, that's what we're going to attract. And, you know, everything will align for us to actually experience abundance. So that's what stood out for me.
Yeah, thanks a lot for sharing that. And what's interesting about that, I think this is the thing about human nature that people don't really appreciate, that we are literally, what's the word I was looking for? We are walking self-fulfilling prophecies. And you know, like is that Henry Ford line, you know, if you say you can, you can, and if you say you can't, you can't. In that our reality filters out to what we focus on and what we believe. And so arguing with people about things is not productive, because whatever it is that they are arguing for, the world will happily deliver for them, right? And that's why I often feel that the best way we can influence people is to live our truth to the point where they see the evidence of it. So that then they might think maybe it's worth looking at that. And I think that plays nicely into the next piece, actually. This one is called Dance of Form. I'll read it. In the world of no form, imagination thrived, creativity flowed, innovation gave birth, the creation put on form. Sent with intent, out into the world it went, to those beholding its form. In them, new intentions formed, created from the resonance of their own innovation, all from fervent imagination, pleasure from formless invention. I'll read again. Dance of form. In the world of no form, imagination thrived, creativity flowed, innovation gave birth, the creation put on form. Sent with intent, out into the world it went, to those beholding its form. In them new intentions formed, created from the resonance of their own innovation, all from fervent imagination, pleasure from formless invention. Any thoughts on this one?
This is so fascinating that it's hard to put it into words. To be honest, you played so well with the wording. But I get the visual that came to me first was really the earth being created. So that out of nothingness, shapes begin to form. And that's ultimately how it happens, right? It happens all the time in the universe that you know, particles are colliding and you know, new stars are being born, and you know, so that everything happens and creates forms, and it almost seems impossible, you know, how that happens.
Yeah.
So I think it's just very, very, yeah, just a wonderful vision for all the people that's possible to create something out of almost nothing. You know, that there doesn't have to be an intent. There has to be an intent of, for example, for being good, and then you form something that you think it's good, whether it's whatever expression you use, that brings out that virtue in the world, you know. But I don't know, I'd like to hear what your thoughts were then in the end when you wrote this.
I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to kind of bring their lens to it before I kind of say any of the thoughts that I had when it came out. Anyone else on this one?
It kind of reminds me of the book of Genesis, of the earth. And I'm also hearing that the power of my imagination thrive and create and innovate things that are not seen. So I'm actually thinking anything that comes to my imagination that I might try to compare with the things that are on this earth. Is it worth it? I might actually allow that imagination to grow into whatever it is that needs to be created, because the imagination thrived, creative flowed. We think that my imagination is powerful enough to create something new that has not been seen, heard, or understood on the earth.
Yeah, I like that. Anybody else?
I'm distracted. I just came back.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
What I could get is creation. When you say creation, my mind went to Genesis. That's number one. My mind went when I just met somebody finishing about that. But I thought about those who are the builders. They will sit down out of nothing, not that they are copying anything. They want to think. I've seen this, let me do mine like this. They begin to do it. And then people will be copying it. Did you see that one? What the builder did? This is what I want to do. Because they imagine, those people sit down and imagine things. What it is what you imagine, you want to put into practice, you want to see it. But when you don't see anything, when you don't imagine anything, nothing can come out of that. Same thing goes with the sewing mistress. You take your material there. Okay, I haven't got any style. Create something for me. Then they will sit down and they begin to sketch. They will imagine this. This is the shape of what this person will say. I saw the figure. This style will go with this figure. They begin to create it and say that and they will bring something out of it. And people will be copying it. But when you don't see, you can't. When you don't imagine anything, you can't see anything. That's what. The same thing is our lives. When we say, I'm sitting here, I'm just empty. But when you don't have any mind to say, this is what I want to do, this is the step I want to take, you will never take any step. That's how I could get out of it.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, actually. That does conceptualize some of the elements that are in there. Anne-Marie, did you have something?
Yes, I was just reflecting on the fact that as the ladies mentioned, Genesis, which actually ties into what you have read, the fact that when we were created, God actually implanted visible and invisible seeds, visible like the eye, that we realize that we replicate of our kind, and everybody has a unique form of what it is that the original man had. And we tend to focus a lot on the visible, but we don't focus on the invisible, like the imagination, which he has given us to be able to create, to be able to, because every innovation or every design that we see, whether an aeroplane or whatever, was first in seed form, a thought that we're now actually seeing in manifestation or tangible. I think this is beautiful, Frank. And, just being able to have this kind of session. I'm just sorry that I won't be able to spend the whole time with you guys because I have to leave at 1 for a meeting, but I'll definitely come back. Thank you.
Yeah, this is being recorded, so you can catch up with it anyway. Thank you very much for that. Hi, Muriel. How are you? Nice to see you. So this piece really, and Maria kind of hit at it. It's deep, it's long in terms of what it's pointing to. And you all have so beautifully spoken about elements of it. It's this dance, that's why it's called a dance of form, is that all things start in the unseen, become seen when somebody does something to bring it into manifestation. But the journey doesn't end there, because that then inspires someone else. And that's what Auntie was talking about there. The inspiration of someone else then going, oh, that's interesting. So there are the people who innovate from nothing, and they're the people who take something that exists and vary it and put their unique stamp on it. So going back to what Anne-Marie was saying about, there's the seed, but then when it reproduces every time, it creates an element of uniqueness around it. So everybody's fingerprint, everybody's iris, and things like that, all those elements become unique for an individual. I always find it amazing that you'd have twins and even they have different fingerprints. You know, it's like, what? They came from the same egg that split. What's that about? That is the commitment of nature to honor the diversity and infiniteness of its possibilities that exist, to just put that out there. And so the idea being that when we give expression to creativity, we enjoy it, we put it out there for others to see and experience it and benefit from it, and inspires others to do other things. And it just keeps evolving and evolving. And going back to something Anne-Marie said earlier, actually, one of the things that makes us unique as a species is our ability to imagine things and bring those imaginations into existence. That is such a beautiful aspect of our, obviously it has its negative side, the shadow of it, but ultimately the point remains that we have that ability to do that. And that's just, I just find that fascinating and awesome. And I think if we allow ourselves to become the conduits of creativity, especially when that's aligned with love, so i.e. in service, then I just think that so much more good happens in the world as a result, and so many more people are inspired as a result. And that's just the beauty of this. Anything on that?
I think it's what, thank you for the explanation, and that's kind of expanding on it. That that was very good, and I understand where you're coming from, and it's kind of what we call creativity from creativity. So we have this way with some of my friends on social media that when they create something like a painting, then I would actually extend that to an animation, and then somebody else would do a coloring a kind of picture from it. So it's kind of funny because we all do that. We don't agree. And I mean, we don't like say that, okay, I'm going to do this. We just do it and we publish it, and then we tag the other person. And it's so funny because it happens. People keep just evolving that one piece, and it becomes totally different sometimes in the end.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to kind of send us off with a final piece, which kind of then looks at the bottom of the foundation of everything else, which is energy. This one is called Energy Flow. Flow of energy, flowing with nature, flowing for the greater good, flowing as the universe intends. Waste not by focus on the past, now long gone. Waste not by fixation on the future yet to come. Block not by resisting reality, it has already won. Make the most of it through inquiry. Learn and play along. I'm going to read that again. Energy flow. Flow of energy. Flowing with nature. Flowing for the greater good. Flowing as the universe intends. Waste not by focus on the past, now long gone. Waste not by fixation on the future yet to come. Block not by resisting reality, it has already won. Make the most of it through inquiry. Learn and play along.
I'm hearing live present. Live for now. And then allow everything else to unfold and flow as the universe decides to. Just allowing it all.
I love that. Be present. I love that. Anybody else?
Well, Frank, I always need energy, so I'm really grateful for it. So I'm just wanting to flow with energy, but for the greater good, that's really important, isn't it? Because what we flow with and we share with others, it's really for the greater good as well. Not to focus on the past, but learn and play along. Well, every day is a new day, so yeah. Let's make the most of what the Lord has given us. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And share it.
And share it, yeah. Indeed.
I feel like if I write, it ties in with everything, all the other pieces you've shared today about being in flow with creativity and, and then just allowing that energy to flow. I think, just want to say thank you so much for this today.
You're most welcome. And in what you've just said is the demonstration of everything we've covered today. Is that the reason today was possible and it could flow like that was because we allowed the space for creativity. So these pieces are just there. I've not taken them in the order in which they appear on my list. I've taken them in the order where it felt right to put them in. And somehow they've managed in of themselves to align in a way where we've had this experience. I've not had to control that. I just needed to be a conduit open to that, to say that feels like right, like put that there. And we don't know where it's going to go. We don't know who's going to say what, but just flow with that. And there's no stress, and there's flow, and there's ease. So we have demonstrated exactly the thing we're talking about. It's not airy-fairy. It's true, it's real, and it's possible because we just experience it. So thank you, every single person who's made that possible.